to tackle the annual flooding disaster on a permanent basis. Dr. Chukwudi Njoku is an environmental geographic information system consultant, and he joins us now live from Port Harcourt for more on the flooding disaster. Thank you for your time today on Network Africa.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right, so as an environmental and geographic information system expert, talk to us about your assessment of the flooding situation in Nigeria affecting 27 out of the 36 states in the nation, of course, over 400 local government areas.
Okay, thank you very much. The ongoing flooding occurring in various parts of Nigeria, as well as the other neighboring countries like Chad, like we have seen, is a very sad situation. And it is even more worrisome because most of the people that are affected are in the low-income category, who mostly reside at the very lowlands, and that makes them more vulnerable to flooding. The yearly events of the flood affect areas that are in high flood risk zones. So we have the high flood risk zones and the low flood risk zones. We have flooding occurring like every year, but they are not at this scale because they happen in areas that are in the higher flood risk zones. However, the flooding that happened in the year 2012 and what we are seeing currently is an indication that areas within the high and the medium flood risk zones have been submerged. And that's an area of about 67,577 square kilometers underwater. This is based on a research I carried out in 2020, which is published in a peer-reviewed journal. For context, that is an area that is about the size of the entire Borno state or Sierra Leone or the entire island, the country of Ireland, being potentially submerged underwater. So that gives you a picture of how serious this situation is. Nigerians are becoming more vulnerable to flooding, and this is due to a combination of natural factors like climate change and anthropogenic factors as well, like the need to have a dam on highlands for agricultural and electricity purposes. What may not be possible is our ability to stop the occurrence of flooding, but what is possible is our ability to become less vulnerable and minimize the impacts. And this follows from the idea of environmental possibilism, which provides that humans are able to use tools, technology, and resources that are available to them to alter and address environmental concerns.
Right, so many have said several comments about the reason for the flooding. Some have said it's because of climate change. Others have said it's because of the release from dam waters from Cameroon. What do you think is the result of this flooding disaster? Okay, so flooding would always happen. It is not a new thing. It has happened since time immemorial. But then people, because of increasing population, we get more vulnerable because we now find ourselves living in areas that are naturally floodplains. So that is a basic challenge, and it's more prevalent in developing countries where land is more affordable at very low-lying areas. But that is on one side. On the other side, I mentioned anthropogenic factors. So the need to have a dam. And in this case, there's a dam in Cameroon, which occasionally they release water. Of course, the Nigerian authority are quite aware of this dam and the fact that they have to release this water from time to time. And that is also another factor. And in this particular case, it's a very major factor because it has led to another dimension of flooding, which is not the usual kind of flooding we have every year. But what climate change does is it exacerbates the impacts. Climate change has increased the number of the expanse of dry lands we have in the northern part of the country, reducing water retention rates. People have also built houses in floodplains as well as in marshlands and swampy lands, which are usually very effective for containing water. So all these factors work together. However, in this case, this is similar to what we had in the year 2012, where we had a deluge which is similar to the biblical deluge. Right, so let's talk about future preparedness. You've said that flooding is not a new thing. We know that Cameroon releases water. We know people live in floodplains and they will live there until there's danger. So what should be put in place to mitigate this, in the months ahead and even the years ahead?
So a whole lot needs to be done.
And the first thing that has to be done is setting up an effective early warning and early response system. This is very important. And to operationalize this in the first place, flood risk and vulnerability maps should be adopted as working documents to support decision-making at all steps of the flood disaster management, from the prevention to the mitigation, to preparedness, operations, relief, and as well as recovery. People need to know what is coming to them. People need to know, and they have to know early enough. But then it is also the duty of the government to make sure that they enforce the recommendations of the early warning and early response system, because sometimes people do not understand the intensity of what is coming. So the government must tell them, this is what is coming. The government must also take measures to begin to evacuate people immediately the signs are coming, so that they are not stranded. Apart from early warning and early response, you expect that when the flooding started, what I expected was that the armed forces will swing into action, because I saw people stranded in their communities, people stranded in their homes, people stranded in where they perceived to be highlands, because some people actually moved away to other areas of their communities. They thought those places were highlands, but those places were not actually highlands if you do a simple geographic analysis. So people need to know, the government needs to take the responsibility of evacuating people from these places as soon as possible. But however, if they are caught up in the flooding, then you expect the armed forces to come in. You expect the Navy to bring boats and start rescuing people quickly. You expect the Air Force to bring helicopters to rescue people, because that was one major reason why we had lots of fatalities in this particular incident.
Right, thank you so much for your thoughts on that, Geographic Information System expert, Dr. Chukwudi Njoku. Thank you for your time on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
Still to come on the program. Schools in Uganda and 4 other countries receive world's best school prizes for educational community service.